News coming in from President Zelensky in Ukraine, saying that Kyiv has data on at least several hundred Chinese nationals fighting for Russia, saying that Moscow is trying to prolong the war by using Chinese lives. I'd like to get your opinion on this statement, if possible. Of course, the dialogue geopolitically with China saying that these comments are baseless when previously made by Zelensky. How does the potential Chinese impact on the war between Russia and Ukraine complicate these situations further?
Well, hopefully it clarifies it for the United States, because as you have reported very consistently, the Trump administration has been trying to be even-handed between Russia and Ukraine to try to bring them both to the table. And as your previous expert said, Putin and the Russians are bad actors. I mean, number one, they're the ones that started the war, but number two, they're bad actors in this negotiation phase. And given Trump's focus on China and trying to counter China throughout the world, both trade as well as geopolitically, that documented Chinese activity on behalf of Russia is hopefully going to tip the scales back to recognizing that the Ukraine and the Ukraine forces are the good guys, and Russia, with North Korean troops that we know have been there for a while, and now Chinese, are the bad guys. And the other part to this is that it shows once again that no matter what propaganda comes out of Russia, Russia must be really hurting on the war of attrition, because they're having to import these foreign fighters.
Yes, absolutely. Looking further at the comments made by President Zelensky, he says that the key to successful diplomacy is determination in continuing with pressure on Russia. We spoke, of course, earlier about the fact that Witkoff is in Russia potentially to speak with Vladimir Putin. How important is that pressure that Zelensky talks about, specifically from an American point of view, where Trump has openly said that the war would end quickly, he'd get it over and done with within days, and that seems, of course, not to be the case. We have been months now since Trump took office for the second time.
Well, Trump does hyperbole, and I mean, those of us who support him recognize that he doesn't lie. He's a real estate developer. He does hyperbole, and he should have recognized early on that Russia and Putin are not going to blink unless some real pain is issued their way. And again, obviously the battlefield situation is mostly stagnant, although again, Russia is losing the attrition war, but there has to be more economic sanctions, there has to be more political sanctions, there have to be even more equipment sent into Ukraine to tip the scales so Russia realizes that it's a no-win situation, or at least the oligarchs and other supporters around Putin say enough is enough. Someone needs to be able to turn more screws into the Putin inner circle to finally get them to the bargaining table.
Yes, Scott, sorry to cut you off there. We do have some breaking news coming in, and tensions are escalating as Russian President Vladimir Putin meets with Trump envoy Steve Witkoff, while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reveals disturbing new information. Zelensky claims Kyiv has data indicating that several hundred Chinese nationals are fighting for Russia, suggesting Moscow may be attempting to prolong the war by using Chinese lives. Zelensky has also called on Ukraine's allies to prioritise the delivery of 10 Patriot air defence systems, a crucial step in bolstering Ukraine's defence against Russian aggression. In a significant diplomatic statement, Zelensky also emphasised that the key to successful negotiations, as mentioned earlier, is relentless pressure on Russia. He noted that 1 month after rejecting a US offer for a full ceasefire, Russia's actions continue to be the primary obstacle to peace. Scott, just to come back with you before we end this conversation, Zelensky talking there about Russian action and wanting to prolong the war. I want your opinion on this. Do you think that is the case, and what is really needed now from the global unit working to end this war in order to bring it to a close?
We need to provide more equipment faster. One of the problems during the Biden era was that Biden talked a good game, but he really did slow walk a lot of equipment that Ukraine could have used earlier. And so that's thankfully some of our European allies, Germany in particular, are providing equipment that the U.S. has not. And again, in a battlefield situation, you want to have overwhelming force, you want to have overwhelming technology. The Ukrainians have been brilliant in developing drone technologies that are really changing the whole course of warfare globally, but they need to be helped. Russia is clearly showing its hand as a bad actor. They need to be isolated, and they need to be put, more pressure needs to be put on them.
Scott Faulkner, thank you ever so much for not just talking to us there on US deportations, but also diving into that breaking news relating to the Russia-Ukraine war. All of those updates, as we get them, we will bring them to you. But for now, that is all we have time for. We will continue.